All right, welcome to Season 2, Episode 13, also known as Episode 45 of the Retro Game Club podcast. I am Hugh, and joining me live from the asbestos pits is Rob.
Yeah, that comment will make sense eventually to our listeners when we get to our topic.
Yes.
And our topic is not asbestos pits.
No.
Kinda.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it comes up.
What have you been up to?
Not a ton. I've been playing a lot of that Persona 5 game that I got. Mm-hmm. I did get the Final Fantasy VII Remake in the mail just yesterday. So that will be the next game I play. I didn't realize it's on 2 CDs. Which...
2 Blu-ray.
Yeah, so that's like... I have to probably delete some stuff from my PlayStation hard drive. Kind of territory.
Yeah, mine's not supposed to get here for a few days.
Yeah, I don't know what the install size on that is going to be. I've overall heard pretty positive things about it.
Oh, same. Yeah, same. Yeah, it'll probably bring back Tifa cosplay at all the conventions, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Or bad thing.
When we're allowed to have them again. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, I guess you could just do it at home. I guess you could. Yeah, why not? There's no reason you can't put on a costume in your own house. Matter of fact, that's really the right place to put on a costume, I think.
Well, a lot of people now are dressing up to do stuff like take out the garbage.
All right.
Like they'll put on a gown or whatever just for a reason to dress up. But no. I finally got to the point where I was so used to not just getting dressed, just being in pajamas all day, that now I finally have my morning ritual. Like I actually dress like a human going to work.
Yeah, see, I still get up at my usual time and get dressed every day because I can't, I know this is off topic, but like I can't get out of I can't get into a mindset where I can do work if I'm in pajamas and, looking like a slob in general. So what have you been playing?
I've been doing a lot of our Game Club games. Trying to think what else. I kind of went through a lot of the Switch's retro catalog lately, but that's about it. I'm waiting for Final Fantasy to come in the mail to have a big game to play. I didn't want to start something big, And I even bought kind of some long games like Phantasy Star. There was a huge sale, Sega sale for Switch. I got it for like $4 or something. And
which one?
It's one I never completed. The first one. The Master System game.
Okay.
And so I was going to start playing that, but then I remembered Final Fantasy will be in the mail, so didn't start it. But
yeah, well, that is a long game, and if you don't have maps, you're going to need to buy some graph paper because it's just really. Have you played it a little bit before?
I mean, I'm talking about when I had when my buddy had a Master System.
Okay, yeah, it's really, really big maze-like dungeons.
I'm sure there's maps I could download now.
Yeah.
On like GameFAQs or something.
Yeah, I'm sure there are.
Other than that, teach myself some new programming skills, and been watching that show Devs. Have you heard of that one?
I have not, no.
It's on Hulu.
Okay.
And it great cast, and yeah, it's about quantum computer programming with other stuff going on with it, but it's
wait, is it real, like real people on it?
No.
Okay.
It's totally science fiction.
Okay.
And it's fantastic. I can't recommend this show enough. It's got its claws into me, and I've been finishing up the last season of Future Man, which is also on Hulu, and I just think it's the funniest show on TV. So that's about it. Not leaving the house and watching a lot of TV.
Quantum computing. I have a stepbrother who does quantum computing development. Yeah, because I'm right. I know I'm sort of like the underachiever in the family. That's what people don't recognize.
You only code in this dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like it's sort of weird when you have like step siblings that you didn't grow up with. You know what I mean? Like, does it? Well, maybe you don't have this, but we get along just fine, but it's like we have no shared experience or reference of any kind. Like,
yeah.
Like, our parents got married when I was basically an adult, so.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, let's talk.
News.
Yeah, news. Not dysfunctional family conversation. HU C6270. Did I mispronounce that? Would you call it the 6270 or the 6270?
I have no idea.
So,
But
did you post this one?
yeah,
Okay.
so this is on Retro RGB, and it's about how these guys are they shave the top off the chip, the video chip for the TurboGrafx, Super Graphics Duo, all those, and that's called decapping, and you do that with a laser or acid or something like that. Then you take high quality photographs of the actual circuitry to reverse engineer it. And the reason why you would want to do this is for accurate emulation, and then also creating an FPGA like the Mister.
Yeah.
So this will lead to better TurboGrafx emulation down the road.
Yes, which would be nice. It's used in like 2 arcade games or something too. So a little bit of a niche chip. I don't believe there's something. I don't think it was used on anything else.
Now, looking at these high-res pictures, I still don't know how someone would start coding this. Like, creating a chip to code hurts my brain,
Yeah. Right. I mean, you obviously have to have some background in microprocessor design. I suppose once you've done all that work, it doesn't seem that hard.
Yeah.
To me, that's another one of these jobs where it's like, I could probably do it, if I could learn, I could just sit down and do the requisite 10 years of grinding to be good enough to do it.
Yes. But moving on to something much more simple.
Yeah. How to write an Apple II BASIC program in your web browser. So,
and that's really it.
Yeah. This is from howtogeek.com, and it's basically talking about how to use a JavaScript-based Apple II emulator, and then you can write little basic programs in it. If you don't want to like set up and run an emulator on your own, and then you can go and like to archive.org and get old like family computer magazines or whatever, and code Apple II programs that appeared in these magazines. You could code the original Oregon Trail in this. The basic source code. I say the source code for a basic version of Oregon Trail is out on archive.org in some random magazine. Yeah, it's a fun little project. I like it.
Yeah, it's called Apple II JS for JavaScript.
Yeah, I have used it to play some games before.
That's cool. Yeah. All right, here's a story that I hate like I was born to hate this story.
Okay, good.
A bug in Super Mario Brothers NES discovered and patched. And this bug is on the stages with the Lakitu. That's how you pronounce it, right? Yeah. The guy in the cloud that throws down the spiky guys at you. Well, apparently there's a bug, I'm using air quotes, in the code that wasn't discovered till way after Super Mario Brothers was released. And its physics are supposed to be different than they are in the game. And you could watch this side-by-side video, and I do not like the results of this patch at all.
Yeah, I sort of wonder why you call this a bug versus
exactly
a design change they made because it makes the game a lot harder. So this basically changes how the Lakitu are thrown. The spikies are thrown. No, Lakitu's the cloud guy. The spikies or whatever, spinies, I think they're called. Right? Yeah. So I think this is probably something they intentionally changed because the way it changes it is the spikies now get thrown like way ahead of Mario, and it makes like running through the stage a lot harder. Because you can't.
And they bounce off of things too.
Yeah. So I feel more like this was something the developers changed late in the cycle versus, oh, we meant it to work this way, but it didn't.
Yeah. It ruins the whole flow of the game. This air quotes patched way. So I will not be playing that.
I will probably try it just to see, but it does make the level look very, very frustrating to play through. But again, if you go and you kill Lakitu right away, then I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And another one I posted on ScreenRant.com, turn NES games into VR games with this program.
Yeah.
So there's this program called, what is it called?
3D Send. Yeah, there was a thing like this a couple years ago. I don't know if this is the same project. Like, I remember seeing something like this maybe 3-4 years ago that was really similar, but I don't think exactly the same project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, this looks amazing. The castle, they use Castlevania on the demo video here. Duck Hunt, maybe not as impressive. Zelda, kind of annoying. Metroid, I think, is maybe a little... Metroid looks cool. Castlevania looks cool. I think Zelda looks kind of bad in it.
So how do you describe this to someone?
Well, it's essentially taking the game, like if you have a flat screen and then you're sort of tilting it up, I don't know, like 15 degrees, and redrawing the texture so they're all like coming at a different angle. So it's like, it's kind of just adding an extra dimension to the games.
But it's kind of amazing, like the blocks, in Mario or Metroid, they look 3D. Mm-hmm. Like it literally added a dimension to them.
Yeah, because it's sort of texturing each side of them as it's re-rendering them. But it's using like the same texture that you would see face, like when you're like in the regular overhead view. It's not adding new textures or anything. Mm-hmm. So it's neat. There's, like I said, some games look like they're pretty good using this. Others look not so awesome. But I think there's some styles of game, there are some games this will work better for than others.
I think Zelda looks pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that one. All right, I want to put like Sunday Fun Day through this or something. Sega made a traffic safety game in 1988, and now collectors have it. I did download this ROM, by the way.
You did?
Yeah, of course. I haven't played it yet, but of course I downloaded this. It's called, what's the English translation? The English translation is You're the Best Driver. And it's a game that teaches traffic safety. But yeah, SMS Power is a cool site for Master System info and also like prototype and beta ROM dumps. They have a ton of that kind of stuff there. I've been following this site for almost 20 years now, I'm sure. And yeah, they posted this. This is a Polygon article about the game that they posted. The game does not look a lot of fun.
Well, it's for kindergarten and like first graders to learn about driving.
Yeah, that's a good time to start driving. And it was a product of an insurance company. So there you go.
Insurance companies, aren't known for great games.
No, and I'm trying to think of an example of one.
A loose cart of this went for $33,000 in 2009, and let's see, and then another time for $4,800. So you can just download this ROM, instead.
That is, I would definitely say this is a case where piracy is acceptable.
Yes.
Now, I can't remember if we talked about this contest earlier in the year or last year, but it's the Basic 10-Liner contest. So this is a MSX programming contest where you try and write a game in 10 lines of BASIC. And here they have the winners. So there you go. Some of them actually look like fairly competent games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't look through all these, but definitely worth checking out. I'm almost positive we talked about this.
Yeah, I think we talked about the contest when it started. Because I like these weird contests. I mean, like MSX, to me, that would be... I have a list of like retro gaming and computing projects I would get into if money and time wasn't a problem. I guess if money's not a problem, usually time doesn't become a problem either.
Yeah.
So, like, buying like an MSX and learning to program it would be very high on that list. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this jobs keep getting in the way of doing things.
Yeah, and there's just not a lucrative industry for MSX programming. So
But COBOL now, COBOL's hot.
COBOL's hot. That's not too surprising. I mean, I will joke with the developers in my office that like, stay tuned. Like 40 years from now, you'll be hearing like Python developers desperately needed.
Yeah.
Well, it's just now I actually don't know COBOL. I did see the stories about like COBOL developers needed. I've done some work to interface with COBOL programs, but I've never written COBOL code.
I have an old Osborne computer that I know has some COBOL on one of the floppies.
Why would the Osborne have COBOL?
I don't know. Oh, maybe it was Fortran. It was one of the two. Just because I know my old boss, the only programming he knew how to do was either COBOL or Fortran.
Yeah, I think the Osborne would. I think that would be Fortran. I've done Fortran programming, very little bit, very little bit. I can't remember any today. But COBOL's primarily executed on mainframes. Not that you couldn't like run COBOL on anything, I suppose, but it's primarily for like batch processing.
Is there like a modern COBOL, like visual COBOL?
So, without going on a big tangent, like some companies have done other like I'm sure IBM supports something called COBOL today, and then some other companies have done like tried to modernize COBOL and done like I've seen like object-oriented versions of COBOL before. I worked at one company that I will not name that wrote their own version of COBOL, which was a bad decision on their part because you know, who are you going to hire to work on your version of COBOL that you invented? You're basically your COBOL fork.
Literally reinventing the wheel. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can basically only go offshore and try and convince recent grads out of colleges overseas that, oh no, this is a really cool thing to learn. So yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's never been, I mean, I'm trying to think of games written in COBOL. I don't even think it would make sense. I just don't. All right. So, because again, like the B is for business, right? Like it's intended to, take business problems and represent them as code, which are typically like processing things. Like it's typically big things. Like I have to process thousands of, thousands and thousands of insurance transactions overnight.
Well, I also read that streetlights, stoplights are still coded in COBOL for some reason.
That would be weird.
I don't know if it's true.
I would assume those are. I'd actually assume those are some
C.
native machine code. Yeah. So there is a COBOL 2014, which now supports XML. Which
it's a big update.
Big update, yeah. Now supporting something from 2000. No, wait. I first worked with XML in 1999, maybe. All right.
Yeah, it's before 2000.
So,
anyway,
Pac-Man Fever musician releases a new song.
Yeah, Bucker and Garcia. And Garcia, sadly passed away a little bit ago, but so it's just Bucker, I guess. But
yeah, so he wrote a song called At the Old Arcade, which I did not listen to before adding it to the show notes, and then you listened to it and assured me it's a very cringy song.
I don't want to say cringy because, hey, I like anyone creating anything. I'm glad he did this, but the video of this, well, I mean, the lyrics are very obvious, but it also, the lyrics are printed out in the video for this, and he's talking about, like, watching this girl play arcade games in the arcade, and we thought we were just friends and stuff.
It's kind of got a stalker vibe to it.
Yeah, it doesn't, even though this new song really doesn't translate to 2020, to the kind of the social political environment.
Right, but it means he's been pining for this young woman for a very long time.
Yeah.
So.
But hey, I'm glad he's still keeping it going.
Yes. Modder, why would you do this? Modder guts a perfectly good GameCube and turns it into a modern gaming PC.
Yeah, you put perfectly good. It says it's broken.
Oh, it says broken? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So this guy, this is on NintendoLife.com. He takes a silver GameCube that didn't work.
Yeah.
Guts
I
it.
want proof
kinda,
that it didn't work.
I know that's kind of something you say just so people don't scream at you. But he gets a it's either a Nano or a Pico ITX motherboard, a lot of RAM, and he builds he modifies a GameCube to USB adapter. So he builds this modern computer that fits perfectly inside this GameCube that you can also use your actual GameCube controllers with.
Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful machine, too.
Yeah, look, I didn't see the specs, but it looks like a mini ITX motherboard. Which I'm kind of surprised. Like, I know, like, the mini ITX, I'm kind of surprised those have survived with Raspberry Pi being out. Like, I realize that the mini ITX is much more powerful on average than a Raspberry Pi, but, like, a lot of people bought the mini ITXs because they wanted to mod them and put them into, weird machines. Like, that was kind of the appeal of that motherboard.
Yeah, now people are... So it's actually it's a little bit smaller than a mini ITX. He has a mini ITX motherboard and he gives you a comparison.
Okay.
Like the GameCube's actually smaller than mini ITX. But, and for our listeners that don't know, mini ITXs, there's a certain spec for motherboard size, like ATX, extended ATX, and mini ITX is one of them. Anyway, is kind of the second to smallest one. But people are using mini ITX now for stuff like firewalls and like powerful firewalls that do a lot of routing, or mini game systems that, they want to do more than a Raspberry Pi.
Right. But when I got introduced to the mini ITX, it was all like, I'm going to take this motherboard and put it in an Atari 5200 kind of projects. I don't know if that's a real project. Projects like that. In that, I was saying, like, that niche is like all Raspberry Pi now.
And unlike Raspberry Pi, mini ITX motherboards, you're talking hundreds of dollars once you...
Yeah, and you have to have cooling. Like, they require a lot more cooling than a Raspberry Pi.
I think we have one last story here.
Let's see here. Retrobit is launching an alternative Dreamcast controller in late 20... Yeah, I saw this. I have tons of, like, boxed Dreamcast controllers.
Mm-hmm.
That I found.
None of them are wireless, and I guess they moved the only thing they changed is they repositioned the some of the shoulder buttons, I think, and it's wireless.
Yes, wireless. The shoulder buttons seem to be lower, maybe is the term I'm thinking of.
Which I could see that fitting a bit better.
But now, so these guys, I own their Genesis and Saturn controller, and I've been pretty happy with both of those.
They really can do no wrong. All their stuff is pretty great, right?
Yeah, their stuff so far, they haven't done anything wrong. They theoretically can do wrong, but they so far have not. They also make a really good Nintendo 64 controller that I sort of regret not buying when I saw it at Midwest Gaming Classic. I don't know why I didn't buy it. I think they were selling really fast, and maybe I didn't get to the table quick enough. I'm sure I can get one now. But they are really cool. Like, it's a really big improvement on the Nintendo 64 controller.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right.
So we got an interview now. It's kind of funny. Like, Rob and I have, we talk offline, outside of the show a little bit, and we have kind of like different objectives for interviews here. Rob is very much like, hey, do you think we can get Kanye West on to talk about the TurboGrafx 16? And I'm more like, yeah, do you think the guy that delivered Chinese food to its software is still alive? And you can usually tell who figured out which interview guest based on that criteria. But this is actually a really fun interview.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking to Nico Rosso, who was a crew member on the first Mortal Kombat movie. And there's a lot of really just kind of fun trivia about the movie in this interview. Mm-hmm. So here we go. All right, so this time around, we are joined by Nico Rosso, who was a crew member on the 1994 Mortal Kombat movie. I guess 25th anniversary this year. So it was filmed in 94, released in 95. Welcome to the show.
That's right. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me, guys.
So what was your role on the movie?
I was the sound cable wrangler in the sound department. So that means I was the third guy in the sound department on set. So there's the sound mixer who's got the mixing board. And back in that day, it was analog. So we had a Nagra tape, reel-to-reel recorder. So the mixer had all the inputs and would mix all the sound into the Nagra. And then there's the boom operator who would be on set with the boom mic. And then between the two of them was me, the cable guy. So I would run all the cables. I would make sure everything was rigged. I would take care of the equipment. And I was kind of the guy in the department that would get dirty if somebody had to get dirty, basically. Because the other two guys where, they would sit, they would do the crossword, and they would listen to jazz or Frank Zappa. And then there was me who had to crawl under the set to run a cable and, make sure that there were splinters in my back or graphite grease all over my body. One of the locations that in one of the scenes was an old munitions factory in Vernon, California, and there was graphite grease everywhere. So I'd come home every night, just shower off all this grease from my body. So that was my role. Is kind of the low man in that department. And then sound in general, especially for a movie like that, was not a huge consideration. They weren't really, they were more worried about, getting the shot and getting the action and getting the effects. So sound was we weren't really a priority.
But did that mean you had some time to kind of meet some of the actors when you had downtime between shots?
Yeah, we had a ton of downtime. The actors didn't always hang out with us. We did hang out a lot with the stand-ins, I remember, because they had a lot of downtime because they would go in, the stand-ins go in when they're lighting the set. So the stand-ins are standing there, they're lighting the set, and then the stand-ins leave the set when there's rehearsals and the take. And so they would come and hang out with us. The actors generally, in my memory, would hang out with each other or other departments, but not so much hanging out with the sound guys.
The sound guys, yeah. So how did you come into this job?
I had I'd been working film production when I was in college for film and theater, and then in the summers I would work as a production assistant on low budget movies. And luckily, I was living in LA. I'm from LA, so I would live at home and then work as a intern production assistant on low budget movies for the Corman company back when they still existed. And then, so when I graduated from college, I was looking to get more production work, and I knew a guy who knew a guy that needed a production assistant in the sound department. So I hooked up with this sound mixer, and we did, I think the first gig with him was a TV movie. And then eventually, I just continued to work for him, and then I got into the actual sound department. So this gig in Mortal Kombat was a movie that the sound mixer, Steve Nelson, he got the job. And so when he got the job, he brought me and his boom operator, Tom Hardig, along with him.
Mm-hmm. Were you a fan of Mortal Kombat at the time?
I knew of it, but I was not a huge gamer. I think a lot of my gaming plateaued with what was the man? I'm blanking on the name, but it was I did a lot of coin-op gaming, back in that day. So I didn't actually know it. So a lot of the lore and a lot of the characters were new to me. I didn't really have this, oh my God, look, that's the guy playing Johnny Cage. I didn't have that, as I was working on the movie. Yeah. Tempest is the kind of where my gaming plateaued. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah. I was going to say, describe the game to us. We'd probably figure it out. But
old vector graphics.
Yeah. Well, Tempest was great. So, I'd heard you didn't know anything about the game beforehand. Tell us about some of the locations.
Yeah. The movie opens there in Thailand. So they did a lot of production out in Thailand, all the beach stuff. all the stuff with the temples, there were some boats, I think, and some of that. And that was all in Thailand, which I did not get to go. It was a low enough budget on the movie, and it was not a union gig. And so when they go on location like that, they'll hire a local to do my job because it's too expensive to bring me along and pay me per diem and all that stuff. So they didn't take me, which sucked, but it was still, it was still a good gig otherwise. So that was all Thailand. And then we had, there was that warehouse in Vernon, California. That was the nightclub scene where Sonya is coming in and going after Kano. That was in Vernon. And then we were in like San Pedro, Long Beach for all the docks. And then we had a couple of airplane hangars, which were acting as sound stages, which again speaks to how low budget it is, because an airplane hangar is not sound safe. And that again, sound was not a priority. So we were going crazy because, one of our hangars was at the Santa Monica airport. And so there's airplanes taking on, off all the time, and helicopters and stuff. So we were basically boned, but it just kind of didn't matter. That location that was in the Santa Monica airport was that one that has all the statues in that little kind of ravine with the kind of the rocky river thing in the middle of it. And then for the big stuff, all the Goro stuff and the fight scenes, like the interiors of those, that was an airplane hangar in Van Nuys.
Yeah. Now you also had Abandoned Foundry was one of the locations.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah, once they go to Outworld, they're at an old foundry in Fontana, California. And that location. That was the one where we got there, and they're like, oh, "Okay, great. You get to the truck, and you're unloading your stuff." And they're like, "Okay, and those cyclone fences, don't go to the other side because that's the asbestos pits. So don't go there."
Yeah.
And rumored on that foundry too was that was somebody was telling, and rumors are always flying around on the set, but it's like they were saying that that's the foundry where the end of Terminator 2 was shot. But then it was decommissioned and kind of all pieced apart and shipped overseas to become like a steel foundry in China or something like that, but totally unconfirmed. So I could just be spreading more rumors.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that asbestos pit sounds like a stage in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm amazed that we survived.
Yeah. Now, you had a couple kind of funny stories that I had overheard. So the rancid food at the buffet scene.
Right. The scene with where Kano and Goro are talking, and Kano is eating all the food. By the way, that actor, I think his name is Trevor Goddard, the guy that played Kano, was an amazing guy. Obviously he's an intimidating dude, but the kindest dude you ever met. And unfortunately passed away a few years back, which was hard to take because I remember, because we didn't have a ton of interaction with the actors besides just a working relationship. But I remember him being just one of the cool guys to kind of hang out with, and so I got to give a little RIP to him. But in that scene, he's eating all of this food while he's conversing with Goro, and they're kind of setting up the relationship there. And because Goro was this massive practical special effect, it took days and days to shoot that scene. There would be time where we'd be all set up and Goro's ready, and he'd stand up to do his shot, and then the effects guys would be like, oh okay, wait, no, we got to stop. And then 2 hours later, we'd gear up and try and start over again. So it was that kind of pace. So because of that, the food, once it's shot in the master, it has to stay there, for continuity. So the food was out on that table for days, and they would cover it with plastic or something like that. But it was just sweating and kind of shrinking, and There was a lot of cheese for some reason that was just not looking good. But we had to, everyone's on the set. Everyone's got to live with it.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, I was kind of surprised because I saw the big cheese wedges watching the movie. I'm like, there's no way that's real. Like, why would you use giant real cheese wedges?
I know. Some of it was, I'm sure, was props, but I know that especially the stuff that was near Kano, because he was interacting with it and he was eating some of it, when it was still fresh. That stuff had to be practical. It had to be real.
And then I think you'd mentioned most of the sort of anonymous thugs were local kickboxers.
Yeah, I don't know what training facility they were from, but I think a lot of those guys were either. So I think some of them might have been like bodybuilders because they were all very fit, but a lot of them were local kickbox guys. And I can't remember the name of those thug guys in those kind of knit hoods. They had a name for what they were. But I do know that one of them got the nickname of Stinky Pinhead because they were all shirtless and like oiled up and constantly doing push-ups and stuff. So the one guy had really bad BO and he had a pinhead. So the costume department always had a really hard time keeping that knit hood on him. So that was kind of that's who we had, on our set, kind of surrounding us constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the catering department for that group.
No.
Did the actors were they into it, or was it like a Super Mario Brothers situation where they're just kind of standing around drinking?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think the way that the set was, it was a pretty involved set. I think people were pretty hyped about it, and they were kind of excited because with the director. Paul Anderson, the guy that went on to do a lot of the, or maybe all the Resident Evil movies and stuff like that, he was really young at the time. I think he maybe only had like one movie. It was called Shopping out of England, kind of under his belt. I mean, maybe more than that, but he was a young guy, so he added a lot of vitality to it, and I think it's reflected like in the soundtrack and stuff like that, where it's not one of those movies where you feel like it's a bunch of old dudes making a movie for young kids and getting it wrong, because he was there with that. I think he brought a lot of excitement for a lot of the people. So I didn't really feel like people were just kind of showing up for the paycheck. There was kind of a lot of involvement.
Cool. That's good.
And I think that comes across on screen too. I mean, I think that's one of the things that makes this movie stand out among a lot of the other ones of this ilk, is that people were kind of excited about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, as video game movie adaptations go, this is definitely one of the best.
Sweet.
Yeah. I mean, they had kind of a reputation for being, being bad or being rushed or being developed by people who didn't understand the source material at all.
Right.
I think it's maybe like we mentioned Super Mario Brothers. That was clearly like whoever was behind that had no idea what Super Mario Brothers was. And even like Street Fighter, the movie, had kind of the same problems. Like they had all the characters, but they, the main guy's Guile, who's supposed to be like a, American soldier. They haven't played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, who doesn't bother trying an American accent.
Right.
And like Blanca, who's a supernatural monster, is now like a human who had some experiment that turned his skin green. Like it's all pretty preposterous. So you brought up something or before, not here, but previously, about Sonya, that there had been more than one Sonya, which I did not know.
That scene in Vernon in the nightclub scene. There's that scene. She's coming through that like crazy hallway with all the like lucite on the edges, and then she's kind of kicking ass through the dance floor. That we shot that twice because they had shot that with one actress who I do not remember who it was. And it just, I guess they looked at the dailies and they realized that she just was not bringing what she needed to for that particular role. So they recast and they got in, I can't remember Bridget, I think is I don't remember her last name.
I think it's so they brought now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. So they brought her in. So we had to reshoot a lot of that. But if you watch that sequence closely, you can see that there are still shots with the other actress in there because it just saves time to rather than because it's the same costume and same hair color and stuff like that. So they just kind of kept some of the shots.
And I read that was it Cameron Diaz was originally casted, but she broke her wrist or something.
So that came up when we did the live tweet last night, and I had never heard that before. So I have no clue. I mean, a lot of that kind of pre-production stuff is stuff that I really wouldn't have been savvy to anyway. But if that was true, that never came down to our level.
Yeah. I think it was sort of like the rumor that Brandon Lee was supposed to be Liu Kang. I think it was a lot of like actors they had maybe contacted that either weren't interested or had some sort of, tragedy.
Right.
So what I didn't realize that Goro, that's not all computer rendered. I guess for years I just assumed that was a computer render.
There's no computer on Goro at all, which was, I think he's kind of one of the last, for me, like one of the last great practical effects. He was, it's Woodruff and, man, I can't remember the two special effects guys were the guys that went on to do all the aliens in the subsequent Alien movies. And so the Goro's body and legs and bottom two arms are the actor. And he's wearing this kind of giant harness on his shoulders, which was the rest of Goro's torso, top two arms, and neck and head. And he had all these cables coming out of his back where somebody else on the controls was controlling Goro's top portion. So you've got this split between the mechanical and the human, but no visual effects on that at all, which was, I mean, it was pretty amazing to watch. It was a total time killer, I think, like I was saying. And there were times when, at one point, Goro, his mechanics were so strong that he broke his own jaw.
Whoa.
It wasn't even really a scene. Like, it wasn't like he had to bite down on anything. He just like closed his mouth and like broke some piece of something in his jaw. And that we're like, okay, well, 6 hours later, we're going to be up and running and try and shoot this shot again. So it took a ton of time, but it was just technically amazing stuff that these guys were doing. There's one really cool shot. I remember it took forever, but Goro, I think with his human hand, the actor's hand picks up an orange, and then the mechanical hand above it reaches down and takes the orange or apple or something out of the human hand and then manipulates it. So this kind of crossover that these it was almost like dancing that these guys were doing. It was pretty amazing stuff.
So there's something else I had learned from you. There's a scene towards the end of the movie where Liu Kang and Johnny Cage are entering the outer world, and Reptile attacks them, right? And then Liu Kang goes off and fights Reptile, and Johnny Cage is just like nowhere to be seen. Like he's the world's worst friend at that point.
Right. Yeah, right.
And you mentioned that was something shot after the main shooting. I don't know movie terms or what.
Yeah, it was, I think, like a reshoot, they'll call it, or a pickup sometimes. It's my understanding. So again, someone might have a better idea of this because I wasn't totally in on the loop. Once we wrapped, I don't think we came back to shoot. They didn't bring our department back for anything. But the scene, it's like the big bamboo scaffolding scene, fight scene, and that scene with Reptile were not scenes that we were in on. We didn't shoot those. So I think they did those after the movie was wrapped in order to get more action into the movie, more physical action.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because when you watch it, it really doesn't fit in at all.
No, and you can see the fighting style is different. There's more wire work and stuff like that. And the rumor, and again, unconfirmed by me, unfortunately, at the time, was that Robin Shao, who played Liu Kang, was the fight choreographer for those scenes. And you can see that the fighting style is different. It's a little bit more of that Chinese cinema, a little grander acrobatic style.
Yeah, they're more like Jackie Chan scenes.
Yeah.
Rob, did you have something else?
No. I was just going to ask if you stayed in the sound or entertainment business, or have you moved on?
I kept working with the sound mixer for a few more movies and TV shows and TV movies, and I eventually moved on to screenwriting for a little while, and then got out of that, and I'm a novelist now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right, that's how we got connected, because my wife work in the same genre.
Yeah.
So that's how this all came together.
It just
it's an interesting career arc for sure.
Yeah, then there's tons of other stuff peppered in there too. Those are just like those are the broad strokes. I also work at the library, so it's like
Yeah. So let's see. Last one you mentioned holes in the floor covered in painted foil. So at the end, the final fight scene, there's like that big Mortal Kombat logo on the floor. Yeah. So you had a little insight into how that was put together.
Yeah, they and you can kind of see it when they do the big master shots that there are these kind of little rectangles all over the floor, just very faintly in there, and those were holes in the floor that were covered in thick foil that were then painted with the same paint scheme as the floor. So when they drove those barbed spikes up through them, they poked up through that foil. So it looked like this intact floor, and then these spikes were able to, articulate up, poke up through that for that final, to raise the stakes, as it were.
Right. All right. So, Rob, any other questions?
No. Do you have anything you want to plug or anything?
Well, if anybody out there reads romance, I've got a book out now. It's only 99 cents because we're all stuck at home. So I'm trying to help out a little bit. And it's a short, hot little Regency romance called Unsolicited Duke Pick. And so if you're into it, it's out there, and but if it's not
historical
your thing,
romance, you're talking about a literal painting.
Yes, it is. That's the hook. Actually, the opening line of the book is the Duke, and he says, "I need you to paint my penis."
We're gonna have to bleep that, but yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know what your crowd is, so sorry about that.
No, it's all right. No, it's fine. But yeah, it was. I thought it was a great title, and my wife has recommended your work before, so
that's awesome.
So it's NicoRosso.com.
Yeah,
if you want to check out his books. No retro gaming books in there.
Sorry about that.
But lots of other good stuff.
And if anybody ever wants to hit me up on Twitter with more Mortal Kombat questions, I'm happy to tell you what I might remember.
Yeah, give the Twitter handle again.
Oh yeah, the Twitter handle is @Nico_Rosso, NICO_ROSSO.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your time in quarantine.
Yeah, thank you too. Yeah, stay safe and healthy, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nico. Yeah, I need to, I think because of that interview one night this week, I can go back and rewatch that movie. I think it's probably been 2 or 3 years since I've watched it.
Yeah, I watched it last night. I think it holds up pretty well. Except for maybe Liu Kang's hairstyle, I think the movie holds up really well.
Yeah.
All right.
Game Club.
Game Club, yeah.
The reason we're all here. So, I'll start this one. So, yeah, last week we interviewed the guys from Hard for Games, I'm sorry, and they chose the games for this episode. And so the first one was Star Trek: The Next Generation of Final Unity, which is a DOS game. And I ended up playing a lot of this game. The ExoDOS, I don't want to say ROM, but I guess in the ExoDOS collection, this one worked great for me in DOSBox. So this game is epically hard to get working in DOSBox, but the ExoDOS collection did it fine for me.
Is that because of the video? I mean, why is it? What do you think is going on there?
I'm not quite sure. I tried what did I have that I tried? Maybe something I downloaded from... I tried the demo from archive.org, and it just would not work for me. I forget what happened, but this worked right away from Exodus.
Yeah, now when you try and play it on archive.org, it is like a almost 600 meg download. It tries to fire up in your browser.
Well, I downloaded it and tried to install it into DOSBox.
Okay. Okay.
But so, this game, it plays a lot like a Sierra Online game, but a little bit better, kind of like Space Quest 5, I guess. Really nice, kind of drawn, I almost want to say painted scenes that you point and click. It's a point and click adventure. A lot of the stars from Star Trek The Next Generation are on it. A lot of great FMV. Very fun story. I just think this is a fantastic game. I probably got a quarter of the way through it and have been watching a YouTube video. I'm probably going to go back and actually play it, but I wanted to know a lot about it for this episode. I just didn't want to play a quarter of it. And it's a long game, at least it seems like to me. And yeah, it's funny. You have to complete these missions, and it's an ongoing story, but it's kind of little, I don't want to say side missions, but kind of like how a Space Quest game plays out. Mm-hmm. And Starfleet Command kind of shames you when you don't do a good job, like if too many people died during a mission or something like that. And the combat in this is kind of hard to explain. Combat meaning like starship combat. Kind of gives you a grid, and you have a 3D view also. It actually reminded me of The Last Starfighter for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a fair comparison. I don't know if this is canon or not in Star Trek The Next Generation, but yeah, it takes place between 2 of the episodes in Season 7. It's like, when you're playing the game, it's kind of like you're in a choose-your-own-adventure of Star Trek. So I love this. I thought it was other than it not being easy to get going, I thought it was a fantastic pick. Did you get into this at all?
No, I did not. No offense, just not. I don't particularly like Star Trek very much.
Yeah, you haven't watched a lot of it.
I haven't watched a lot of it. I don't really know who the characters are. Maybe I would like Star Trek. I don't know. I like other sci-fi stuff. But no, I mean, this game mostly just brings back memories of being annoyed by the box.
I like that. I love the old big box, weird shape kind of stuff. But
yeah, it's hard for me to get over that.
I can't remember a game before this that had, I'm sure there are many of them, but they had multiple endings like this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's really only 2 or 3 different endings.
Yeah, games had multiple endings before this.
But this did a fantastic job of using the FMV. It has it does a proper Star Trek. Oh, this is something I've wanted to mention and actually did not make a note of this. When you start the game, it has a proper Star Trek The Next Generation intro, like the song and Picard, saying like space, the final frontier. But then it goes into this ad-lib Sound Blaster rendition of the music, which is fantastic. I love it. So yeah, this game made me smile ear to ear. No, really nothing bad I could say about it. Unlike the next game.
So one of the earliest games with multiple endings, which has been on my games I want to playlist forever. I'm not gonna mispronounce this, I'm sure. The Portopia serial murder case.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that game.
Yeah. So there is a English ROM hack for it floating around. This is one of the first games designed by Yuji Horii. And I gotta tell you, it looks like, I get the graphics don't hold up particularly well. But I really, maybe I'll just play this today, man. What else am I going to do?
See, you don't have young kids. I'm chasing a toddler all day long.
Yeah. I mean, my kids are well past the age where they need to be chased around. So that's good.
You want to start with the next game?
Yeah, so Doom 64, which I, of course, have played because I own it on on cartridge. I can't remember really how I got it at this point, but I have it. And yeah, it's like a Doom game that you can't see.
It was programmed for people with superhuman vision or bats.
Yeah, like, I mean, again, it's one of these things where I tried again, turn off all the lights, maybe play with TV settings a little bit. Cannot get this thing. I just can't get into this game because I just can't see it well enough.
Yeah, you try to, but you physically can't.
I physically cannot. So I think when this goes, how much is this? Oh, I was trying to look up how much it is on Nintendo Switch. I'm getting age verification because that's totally going to stump people.
I always try to put like 1,800 in there.
Yeah, it's just dumb. I have a fake birthday that I use for all these things. I guess it's only $4.99. I guess I can splurge and just buy for $4.99 and see. The screenshots on Nintendo.com look like it's mostly playable.
Yeah, so yeah, I own this game on Nintendo 64 and Switch, and started with the 64 version. I had it back in the day. In fact, I think it was last night. I had the vivid memory. I think I traded this into a comic store for. I traded in Clay Fighter for this.
Ooh, bad swap. I'm sorry. I mean, like, I admit I don't like this game, but Clay Fighter is. Ugh.
But so no, I traded in Clay Fighter and I got this.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
That tells you how much I dislike Clay Fighter. I'd rather play this game that I cannot even see than play Clay Fighter.
Yes. Clay Fighter is so it is unfun. Anyway, I tried to play this on the big screen with all the lights off too. Couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. I was shooting and I heard people getting shot, but I couldn't see them. So I loaded up the Switch version actually before this we re-recorded and played through it a little bit until and it looks much better. It plays great. It does ask you to log in, but you just hit cancel. And then I got instantly nauseous because for some reason with first-person shooters, I just want to vomit. It's that motion sickness thing. I don't get it with any other kind of game. So I didn't make it too far. Yeah,
so I think I will probably end up getting the Switch version. I probably should have done it before we recorded. I just, like I said, I had such a bad experience with the N64 one that I just never really considered trying it.
Yeah, no pun intended. It's night and day.
That was an awful pun.
Totally. But I should mention, this was originally developed by Midway. The newest port is Bethesda, which is pretty cool. First released in 97, last released like less than a month ago. Yeah, they originally started developing this as a game called The Absolution. They trashed that and just made it into a Doom game, and The Absolution is the name of the last level. And there is a story to this, but who cares? Like, who cares? Who cares about Doom storytelling? Am I alone on that?
I do not care. No, I know there is one. The first game takes place on one of the moons of Mars, and the other one takes place on Earth, right?
I think that sounds about right.
And there's demons, and play an RPG, man, if you want a story. You know what I mean? Like, I don't play... Doom is definitely not a game. I play Doom for the story as much as I play Pac-Man for the story.
So I used to be in the Slack group, and one thing that was debated on there a few times was, are games better with or without stories? And I don't think there's a correct answer, but, some people were saying, like, why do I need a story? I just want to get in and play a game.
Well, right, but it depends. Like... That's a really dumb question. You weren't the one who asked it, I hope. Because
no.
Like, first of all, I think a lot of movies would be fine without a story. Like, I think I think Fast and the Furious, you don't need a story in those. You could just be, here's 90 minutes of guys driving cars fast.
Yeah, stuff blowing up. Yeah.
Like, why don't...
Or Die Hard. You don't need a story in Die Hard.
Yeah, Die Hard. Really? I had once pitched the idea of a movie just called Battle Scene, which was just a 2-hour battle scene, no story. Right? People would pay. Wouldn't you pay to see that? I mean,
Oh yeah.
why are these
Oh,
why are
yeah.
these two armies fighting? Who cares? And plenty of video games. I get that. We mentioned Tempest and got mentioned in the interview, right? And Tempest, if there's a story, I don't know what it is. It doesn't need one. And Mortal Kombat kind of didn't need a story either. It's good that it had one because then someone could make a movie based on it. Otherwise, like if Mortal Kombat didn't already have like a story with some lore, that movie would have been atrocious, right? Because someone else would have just invented the lore of Mortal Kombat, and who knows what they would have come up with.
Oh yeah.
But like,
Yeah, it's like inventing Mario lore.
right? But I just mentioned like the serial murder case game for Nintendo, right? Without a story, I don't know what you would even be doing in that game.
Yeah.
Where you mentioned Phantasy Star.
Yeah, games like that or games like Sherlock Holmes.
Right. So like
yeah.
Phantasy Star, what would you be doing in Phantasy Star without a story?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. If you want a game just called like Dungeon RPG Grinder, I guess you could do that. I guess they made that. It's called Eye of the Beholder. But like
Enter the Gungeon.
Yeah.
If any of our listeners have, any feedback about these two games, about Clay Fighter, about do first-person shooters make you pukey as well, or if you have a fix for that, you have Mortal Kombat movie memories, which I do have one, but I'll say it in a minute. Please email us. Email at retrogameclub.net or go on Facebook, bring it up there, facebook.retrogameclub.net, or tweet us at RGC Podcast. Yeah, I saw Mortal Kombat on opening night. Went with a bunch of friends in, I want to say high school. I think was it high school? I don't think I could drive yet. What year was this released?
95.
Yeah,
Because I just noticed it is the 25th anniversary.
Yes. So I got my license in 94. I specifically remember an hour before the movie, I broke my glasses. So I was just sitting there at this movie, watching this movie that's almost all visual.
Mm-hmm.
And before I got LASIK, I was pretty much as blind as a bat. And everything looked like I was playing Doom 64. Yeah, so I did not enjoy the movie the first time. So that's my boring glasses nerd story.
Yes. I thought it was going to go like all Lord of the Flies, but okay.
No. But should we tease new games?
Yeah. Yeah, you got an interesting one.
So yeah, we talked about this game probably like 10 episodes ago now. The game I'm choosing for next game club is Saint Dragon. This game is available on TurboGrafx, and it's like a few dollars, literally a few dollars to buy on the Switch.
Yeah.
I highly recommend buying it on the Switch. And if you are one of our UK or European listeners, you'll be happy to know that this is on Amiga, Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum, MSX, and stuff like that. So, yeah. What's your pick?
I wanted to get back to multi-platform games. So I went Smash TV, a game that is on everything in the early 90s, I guess. There are ports of this. I mean, obviously, you could talk about the arcade version. It's on a lot of arcade collections. It's on Midway Arcade Treasures, for example. But there's ports for like NES, Genesis, Super Nintendo, not TurboGrafx. That would have been difficult, I guess. I guess they ported to NES. You could do it on TurboGrafx, but...
And yeah, I know we're going to talk about this next episode, but the NES version, the NES port, you could play with two controllers. So if anyone plays this game, that's a great way to play.
Right, but but on the TurboGrafx, you would have to have a Turbo Tap to do that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So you couldn't just play Smash TV straight up. Ironically, the Atari 7800 would be a great system to port this thing to.
Oh yeah, that would be a cool project actually.
Yeah, that would be a really awesome game.
So every time I get back into Smash TV, and again we'll talk about this next episode, I also end up watching The Running Man.
Yeah, because it's obviously inspired
by each other. Yes, yeah. So, if you play any of these games, or if you watch The Running Man, please email us. Email at retrogameclub.net. And again, if you feel up to it, please give us some feedback on iPhone or Android. It really helps us. But speaking of emailing us, we have a lot of listener feedback here.
Yeah. You want to get the first one, second one? I'll get the first one. What the heck? Let's see. Majors. Okay. His job is related to large crowds, and those have been put on pause right now. So he's doing a little part-time work to make ends meet. So this is responding to a question about what are you playing during quarantine. He said he normally does not get a lot of time to focus on games other than Sunday nights. But he normally gets together with friends during the week to play games, but they're trying to follow the rules right now and are skipping that. So he's mostly been playing Tomb Raider and Golden Axe Warrior. We mentioned Golden Axe Warrior last week. In Tomb Raider, it's actually the 2013 version of Tomb Raider, not the 1996 version.
Have you played that one?
I have not. I assume it requires... Well, no, I guess it's on PS4, right?
It's on PS4. Yeah, I played it on Steam with the Steam controller, actually. It's great. I really like it.
Okay. Yeah, I just... I never finished 1996-ish Tomb Raider. Maybe it was 97, 98. I feel like it was a 96, 97 release. But I suppose they've modernized the controls quite a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, and back then I always thought, like, we're not ready for 3D games like this. Let's wait for a few more polygons. Eric writes in that he stumbled upon the podcast about a month ago, and he was happy to discover Hugh was on this, and he's happy to hear your voice again.
All right. Cool.
And, yeah.
Glad you stumbled into it.
He's been a Doom guy for a long time. His dad brought home the Shareware CD a long time ago, and he's been hooked ever since. But he never got the Doom 64 version until pretty recently. But he, just like us, he couldn't see anything. It was just a dark mess, and yeah.
So he didn't play it again until he found a mod for it that fixed the lighting. This is a PC mod, so someone must have someone did port this to PC, didn't they?
Didn't it come out the same time as or did it come out for a PC?
No. Doom 64 was never on PC. It's a unofficial...
okay.
It's a unofficial mod of the game. I think someone re-implemented it in... I think they implemented it in Brutal Doom. So there's the game engine Brutal Doom, and I think somebody ported it to run in a modern Doom engine is what happened. And along the way they fixed, the lighting and a bunch of other stuff. But there was never this was never released on like any other console until now.
Yeah, up until like March 20th or whenever.
And then there's a source port called Doom 64 EX, which I guess I'm not familiar with. Where someone also ported, looks like they maybe disassembled it and ported it.
Huh, I feel like I have that on my Vita. Like you played on RetroArch or something. That could be wrong, but he does say like the ominous music is pretty great, which is good. I do agree. And it's good the music's good because you can't see anything. Yeah. It's a audio only experience.
All right, so Jason writes to say he just downloaded Doom 64 on the PlayStation 4 a couple weeks ago. He says it was only like $5. He said it's great, totally different than Doom and Doom 2. The only gripe is that there's no reload animation for the super shotgun. But the chain gun looks way better. All right, cool.
That's the stuff I just never notice. But yeah. Yeah, thank you guys for the emails. And all of you that email us, let me know if you guys also have a first-person shooter nauseous reaction like I do, motion sickness. Hugh, do you ever have that problem at all?
No, only in the game Descent.
Oh, geez, that's like instant for me.
Yeah, that one, I tried it on, when I modded the PlayStation Classic, I tried Descent on there, and man, I almost lost it on that game. But like Wolfenstein's never been a problem, Doom's never been a problem. Think I've done anything new. I've done Quake. Quake, definitely not a problem. So no, those have always been fine.
Doom is kind of the worst for me for that reaction. I don't know why. But we did get some social media feedback for Doom 64. Michael said he was always curious about the game. He even had a Doom 64 poster in his room in his edgier phase. And he saw the gameplay from it a few years ago, and now he can understand why everyone complained about it being too dark. It's pretty much unplayable without your TV's brightness up all the way.
You can put up a Doom 64 poster right now. It doesn't have to be edgy. There's no reason to not put it up. And I want to give a thanks to Eric. I believe a different Eric than the first one we mentioned. Let's see here. Yes, different one. For recommending us out on Twitter. Says this is an interesting podcast with a nice mix of news, retro games, and retro tech. So there you go.
Yeah, thanks. Tweeting about the podcast really does help us a lot. Again, we don't have, other than recording the show, playing the games, and doing some mixing, and booking interviews now, we're pretty booked up. So helping out with getting the word out in social media, and it's not for any other reason to have more people play these games with us. That's why we're here, It's an excuse for us to talk about these retro games.
Yes. And again, in terms of interview subjects, we are perfectly happy to talk to anyone from, like I said, anyone between Kanye West and guy who delivered Chinese food to id Software.
Yeah, and even Hugh and I keep talking about, and we just keep getting busy for this quarantine lockdown time period. We really want to do an episode on playing RetroArch and MAME online with each other. So if you have any experience with that, I know it's supposed to be click of a button easy, but if you have any experience or tips or anything with that, please shoot us a line. We might even piece together a few small interviews about it or something, or maybe have you even test it with us. Who knows? So that's all. Any idea is not a bad idea. So email at retrogameclub.net.
Yes, there are no bad ideas as far as, there are. And I'd even be willing, if we figure this thing out, to do a 4 or 16 player game if someone can explain how to do that.
Yeah, something like Bomberman on Saturn or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds like a pain, because there you have to emulate Saturn and figure out how to get 16 people online. That's I realize people play online games every day and it's easy, but we're trying to do older game and
yeah, more like Contra or Super Mario Brothers.
yeah, something co-op. Smash TV would be actually not a bad one, or we could figure out a Gauntlet run. That would be pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. On yeah.
Gauntlet was 1, 2, 3.
The arcade
that was 4 players, and Rampage is 3.
Or even Simpsons the arcade game, something like that.
Okay, yeah. That's a game I like in concept and get completely tired of after about 3 minutes.
I used to own the arcade cab, and whenever people would come over, every single person would just play all the way through it and then never play it again for the rest of their life, because you never, if you have unlimited quarters, the game's not fun.
Well, it is fun because you're not spending $20 to finish that game.
No, I mean free quarters.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Once you play through it, and once you're not you don't have the tension of, I'm going to lose money if I die. The game's not as when I talk about Smash TV, because spoiler alert, I have actually played it a little bit this week. That was certainly a factor, in playing it. I don't have to worry about dying.
Yeah.
Your play style is completely different once you don't worry about losing actual money.
Yeah. Well, cool. Does that wrap up episode 13, season 2?
Yeah. So thanks for listening.
All right, thanks.